So, Eloise, you stop recording. Wait, Eloise, stop recording.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. Hi, I'm Bea.
And I'm Eloise.
And we're Bea and Eloise's guest star show. And today, our special guest is Vanessa, a music teacher from Toronto, Canada. Hi.
Hello. It's very good to see you. I'm very excited to be on the show.
Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So, Eloise, I think you were starting off with the first question.
Okay. What is your favorite instrument to teach?
My favorite instrument to teach is piano. And I like to teach piano because I find that it's a really good learning tool that my students can use to learn a lot about music and to learn a lot about music pretty quickly. I like the piano because it's easiest for students to learn when they're just starting out. And because I work with a lot of really beginner students and students who are just starting off, it's kind of like the perfect instrument for them to figure out about reading notes and about just making sounds and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so second question. If you didn't have a music teacher job, what else would you consider?
That's a great question. So if I wasn't a music teacher, I would probably work as a librarian. And the reason why I would work as a librarian is because when I was younger, when I was about 18 years old, I used to work in a library where I would shelf books, and my section was a kids section. So I always loved libraries because that was I'm a teacher, right? So I like to help people to learn and stuff, right? So library is another good place to do that because they always have kind of drop-in sessions that you can do where you can go and learn about stuff, as well as reading circles so that everybody can kind of go in there and learn a whole bunch of things. So I really like books, and I really like libraries because it's kind of like a place where students and families can go to learn about stuff.
Great. So, Eloise, third question.
How does COVID-19 affect your job?
Okay, so this is a big one, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk for probably a little long time on this one.
That's
But
okay.
it's a very good question for you guys to ask about, okay? So COVID-19, it means a lot that we're doing social distancing, right? And what that means is we're not really getting together anymore, right? To meet in person. So that's whether you're at your regular school or whether you're at your regular guitar lesson like Eloise has with me. So one of the ways that COVID-19 has affected my job is I don't get to meet with my students in person anymore. So what that means is that I'm meeting them like how we're talking on Zoom, right? But another thing that comes along with doing things not in person is there's a lot of emailing back and forth. There's a lot of extra kind of special preparing that you have to do when you work with students. So there's a lot more paperwork. There's a lot more tucka on the computer, right? When you're working with students kind of from a distance. Because I teach music, it's a bit different, right? So what that means is my job is really it's really important about the sound and to be able to hear for my job, right? So one of the ways that it kind of affects my job is it's a bit trickier to hear my students when I'm meeting with them on Zoom. So that's been a big adjustment for me, meeting and trying to, it's almost like I have to listen extra and listen a lot, right? And I have to keep my eyes on the screen a lot more. And so when I'm working with students, they have to do that too, right? They have to do a lot more listening. Better listening when we work online, especially if you have big groups, right? Like if you're meeting with your classroom and everybody's going blah 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 on the chat, it's hard to hear, right? So I think that it for teachers, it kind of affects how we talk to each other and how we communicate in a bit of a different way now, right? Yeah. So Another thing that's been really different for me as a music teacher is now I work from home. So that's something I didn't do before. So that's one good thing about kind of making the switch with working online, is that I get to spend more time working at home, and less time traveling to where I need to go. Right. So that's another thing. So there's ups and downs, right? There's pros and cons to every kind of thing that there is. But it definitely has been a big adjustment, I will say this, for teachers and for students. A big, big, big adjustment. And teachers know this too, right? We know that our students, some students are getting used to a new system of learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some don't have as much technical stuff in their house, like laptops and iPads and things to actually do their work on. And some kids, their parents are working, both of the parents are working full time, so that's also hard for them.
Right. So if you have like a big family where you have maybe four kids, and maybe you only have 2 computers in your house, that might make it hard for them to get online to be with their teachers. And also, if moms and dads are working and they have many kids, that might make it very hard for them as well. Right. So teachers know this. We know kind of like what we're working with, what we're dealing with. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But that's a very good observation, Bea. Very good observation, right? Because some families are dealing with it in different circumstances where they're okay with it. They're dealing with it in a way that maybe is a bit easier because they have less kids, or maybe they don't work as much, and other families are struggling. Right? So, yeah.
Okay, and then the last question, why did you choose that career path?
Okay, so this is another big one. I'm going to talk a lot.
That's okay.
Okay, so another big one. Why did I choose this career? So when I was growing up, I always liked to learn about instruments. I always loved to sing since I was a little girl. And one of the things that I did to have something to sing to was I learned how to play the piano, and I learned how to play the guitar and the ukulele, so that I could have something to kind of sing to and match to my voice. So music was something that like really, really, really interested me. I was really, really obsessed, right? Just very, very obsessed with learning a lot of stuff about music and performing, right? I also played music when I was a teenager with other musicians, right? So I would play music with other kids who were the same age as me in a group, and learned a lot of stuff about music from them, as well as some of my teachers, right? So interest was a really, really big thing. Music is very interesting to me, and I love to play music. I'm very passionate about it. But another thing that made me choose this career path is I also like to work with kids. I like to work with students, and I like to work with young people. So for
like
me,
you said with the library question.
Yeah, like I said with the library question, I like to work with young people who are learning, right? Yeah, so that's another reason why being a music teacher was a really, really good fit for me. And I started being a music teacher very young. I started teaching music and tutoring when I was about 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So that means this year I will be turning 30. So if you do the math, that means that I've been a music teacher for.
Still thinking.
You're still thinking. Okay.
12 years?
Yeah, I've been a music teacher for, you got it, right? I've been a music teacher for 12 years, right? So that's been a really long time, because when I first started, it wasn't on purpose. It just kind of happened, right? I got like, I got very lucky, and I got a job where I started working with students and tutoring. And I loved it so much that that's what I decided to do. And that's what I decided to stick with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. So
See,
thanks so much again for joining the show and doing everything and helping kids learn music.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.